We're super excited to have Ryan Westwood on our podcast today, an entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist. Now you are the CEO of Fullcast. I saw that you raised $34 million last year, which is awesome. You scaled Simplus from 0 to 600 employees. You sold it to a publicly traded company, Infosys, $250 million. So you have been around the block.
My grandfather was a prolific entrepreneur, but he was also an alcoholic. And it killed him. He had successful businesses. He was a millionaire and he lost it all because of that vice. Recently, I'm like, maybe it was like unfinished business from my grandfather.
Yeah.
I've come to the conclusion that I just had this innate desire to do this that I couldn't explain. Just this engine within me to build at this young age. And I think I was continuing a mission that my grandfather had. That's what I tell myself. People would have laughed if they would, in my 20s, heard me say this, but slow down to speed up. I've been going so fast and had a certain level of intensity that I've realized my direction is far more important than my speed. And taking the time to live deliberately and think what I want to create instead of react to in the world has changed everything.
Welcome back to the Startup Ignition Podcast. Thank you for watching last episode. Thank you for tuning into this one. We're trying to provide you guys with amazing content, amazing guests, and we have another banger today. I'm so excited for everybody to meet Ryan Westwood, who I recently connected with at an annual meeting at a venture capital fund. We ran into each other and Ryan was like, "Hey, how's the podcast going?" I'm like, "You should come on it." And he's like, I don't know if I have time. I'm like, and we found a time. So we're super excited to have Ryan Westwood on our podcast today. And we are so happy to get into it. And I have a bio for you, Ryan. So I'm going to read it for you. And then I can't wait to dive in. But Ryan Westwood is an entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist. And I know you want to talk about all of the above today, and I'm excited to dive in. And you are mostly known for recently, or within the last few years, your Simplus adventure, but now you are the CEO of a new thing called Fullcast, which I'm excited to learn even more about because I saw that you raised $34 million last year, which is awesome. A TechCrunch article as well. That's cool. And you scaled Simplus from 0 to 600 employees. You sold it to a publicly traded company. What's the company called again? It's Infosys, and they're literally on the New York Stock Exchange, I saw, and that's obviously public knowledge. They're a public company, $250 million. So you have been around the block, but not only that, you have also done a ton of stuff. You're a family man. You're a philanthropist. I know that you're an author, right? And obviously a husband, and you're just an all-around awesome, good dude. So we are so excited to have
consistent
Ryan.
Track record. So our viewers and listeners, this is somebody, and he's got some tips for that consistency today, I think, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
So yes, so thank you, Ryan, for coming on the podcast and for talking to our audience. I am sure this is going to be an awesome episode. So, but before we get into it, I know you've watched a few episodes of the podcast. I do have an icebreaker for you.
Okay.
So we're going to play a really quick game. We're calling this Startup Mad Libs. Are you ready for it? Do you remember Mad Libs? Come on now.
I don't.
You don't remember Mad Libs?
Let's just go.
You know when you had like the blank line, have to give a noun or a verb, and you fill it in, and it makes a story with.
You never
did a Mad Lib?
I never did.
Man, you did.
Yes,
you knew what Mad Libs are. You don't know what Mad Libs are?
No.
Am I the only like old millennial that remembers that? I don't know.
It's obviously after my time and maybe before his time. I don't know.
Okay,
you two are probably.
You guys need to back me up here. Leave a comment if you know what a Mad Lib is. Come on now. But anyways, what we do, a Mad Lib is where I'm just going to give you a sentence and you got to fill in the blank. And you can fill it in with one word or a sentence or whatever.
And they can be nouns or verbs or anything?
Well, honestly, it's going to be sentences most likely because I'm going to want to have a story behind all of these probably. Okay. But in the real Mad Lib game, yes, it's like a paragraph and you fill in, and it's like, give me a verb. Running. Okay, I went to the store running. Okay. Right? And so it's the surprise of the word. But this will be the surprise of the story with Ryan. So here we go. So you'll get it right when I say it. And then you can do it too.
Okay.
You want to participate? Okay. So here we go. The dumbest startup advice I ever heard was blank.
Venture capital is your enemy.
Venture capital is your enemy. Wow.
I'm a big fan of venture capital.
Yeah. I was watching a video the other day, and it's like, stop having this mentality that venture capital is a crutch or like a pain or like being scared of it. It's more like it's an accelerator. It's an unfair advantage, right? You raising VC capital is like, yes, it's pouring gasoline on the fire, and that comes with a lot of like, ties and, responsibilities. But at the same time, it gives you another arrow in your quiver that's just like something that puts you ahead of the competition, right? And it was a cool perspective, but yeah, I love that.
I think the details and the nuances are the important question, not whether you do or do not raise it.
Yeah. How about you?
Probably build it and they will come. So in other words, just build your product and see if they'll buy it. That's how you test it.
Yeah.
Build it and they will come.
This is not
it's a very expensive way to do entrepreneurship.
This is not the field of dreams.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. The biggest startup killer is blank.
Cash flow.
Cash flow. I love it.
Well, that's absolutely on the death certificate of everyone is ran out of cash, right? And so that's good. So what leads to cash flow problems is just not understanding business finance. So in other words, I think that, let me complete the sentence right. Say it again.
The biggest startup killer is blank.
The biggest kill starter is premature scaling.
Premature. I knew you were going to say that.
So that's doing things that are right that should be done later.
Yeah. So too early. Scaling and hiring and spending way too early than you should. Okay. The one meeting I'll never forget was when blank.
Buckhead at King and Duke in Atlanta with David Northington, CEO of Cloud Sherpa. It changed the trajectory of Simplus and probably helped me cut 3 years out of the journey.
Wait, say that. I didn't catch any of those words.
It was one meeting at Buckhead in Atlanta at a place called King and Duke.
Okay.
And I had a few things in my head that I thought we had to do that were absolutely wrong. And he helped me so much that I think we got to where we needed to go 3 years earlier because of that one lunch.
Oh, wow. So just a memorable and just milestone of a meeting.
Yes. Just advice from an excellent operator that knew what he was doing.
What was the advice? I want to know the advice. Can you remember the advice?
Yeah, I can remember. So we were a Salesforce partner, and we were hyper focused on where we ranked in the ecosystem. And we were trying to move up the ranking because we thought it would help our brand and we would get more business and we could drift off of the Salesforce brand, which is true to an extent. But he told me, stop focusing on that and hire very experienced salespeople that have already been in this ecosystem for a decade. Just focus on that and not where you're at in their ranking. We switched gears.
And the sales just took off.
Oh, it was such a big piece of advice, but I was hyper focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm such a big fan of find an operator that's exited in your space or an adjacent space. Do whatever it takes. Meet them anywhere in the world. You get on that plane, you meet them wherever they say, and reverse engineer what they did to get to where they were. He had sold for about 500 million.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to hear exactly how he did it. And man, was that a great meeting.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm repeating the sentence for you. The one meeting I'll never forget was when blank.
When Microsoft asked me, what would you do with $1 billion in the Yellow Pages industry? So I was very myopic. I did a print Yellow Pages company. Your first company, I'm going to work there forever. That's my thing. And I didn't understand it's an asset and the value and all that. But then when I said, oh, hey, maybe this print business now, I recognize the internet's company, I'm going to put Yellow Pages on the internet. Everybody got excited and Microsoft invited me into several meetings. And at one of the meetings, they said, John, we're really learning a lot from you. What would you do with $1 billion in the Yellow Pages industry? Never forget that question. I think they heard me audibly gulp.
Okay, that kind of moves into my next Mad Lib or my next question for you guys. Okay, ready, Ryan? If I had $10 million to invest tomorrow, I'd back a company that blank.
I have 4 rules for investing.
Okay.
So number 1, institutional investors already involved. because I don't want to babysit it.
You don't want to be the due
wanna
diligence.
Support I want to support the founder. Number 2, they have audited financials because of the governance. That's really important to me. 3, I believe in the CEO and that the CEO will do whatever it takes.
Just a killer
to get it done.
Yeah.
And then I understand the business model.
You need to understand it.
Yeah. As long as those 4 things are true. And by the way, from my failures, I've created those 4 rules because every time I broke them, I've had a problem.
You've lost. Yeah.
And ever since I've kept those rules without any exception, it's been great.
Yeah. Yeah. We have quite the due diligence checklist at our firm, and it hits all of those things and more. Mm-hmm. But yes, financial projections and financial workbook, if you don't have your financials put together, how can anything ever happen? Like, it shocks me when entrepreneurs don't have that.
I always like to say, if you can't make it work in a spreadsheet, it's going to be that much harder in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about you? If I had $10 million to invest tomorrow, I'd back a company that blank.
That has a solution that is solving a must-have need. In other words, that what they're building or doing or a problem they're solving or need that they're fulfilling, that it's a must-have in the customer's life. In other words, I don't want it to be just something nice to have. I want it to be something they're going to have the class of solution, and now you just have to be the best one to provide that solution. If you're just a throwaway, nice to have thing, it's so much harder in entrepreneurship. It's the more must have, the better.
Yeah. I love those 4 rules, Ryan. Those are great, by the way. Have you been doing a lot of angel investing?
I have. Before Fullcast, I was very active.
And now you're
and
a full-time Fullcast.
I'm fully focused on building.
So before we get to Fullcast, and maybe even before we get into what you were doing with Simplus, take us like back. Like,
are we done with the game now?
Yeah, we're done with the game.
Good job.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
hey, again, if you know what a Mad Lib is, come on, back me up here. I'm the odd man out here. That was a cool game. Okay.
I had fun with it.
So yeah, take us back. Like wherever you want to start, I want to go back because I met you when you were doing Simplus.
Well, when you grew up I like to start where you grew up in high school and where you're entrepreneurial as a youth.
Yeah. Very entrepreneurial as a youth. I've only in the last year maybe come to the realization of why maybe I had this burning desire to be an entrepreneur, because it didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I remember being really, really young, and I actually still have a report from when I was 11. I wrote a report called Entrepreneurship, and a detailed 4-page document as an 11-year-old.
For elementary school?
And I was thinking to myself, how did I know what that was?
Yes.
How did I know the word? And why was I so passionate about it?
Yeah.
And in the last year, I've finally come to a place where I think I know where it came from. My father was a director of history for the state of Utah, professor at BYU. My father has only worked for the state and the church. He's worked for big organizations. So for me to want to go the opposite direction makes no sense.
Yeah.
And there was no entrepreneurs in my neighborhood when I was that age either. So the only thing I know is my grandfather was a prolific entrepreneur, but he was also an alcoholic. He was Catholic in Provo and an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And it killed him. In his 60s, alcoholism killed my grandfather.
Wow.
And he had owned a bunch of Greyhound bus stations. He has Westwood cafes. He had successful businesses. He was a millionaire in the 70s. And
wow. That's when a million meant something.
Yes. And he lost it all because of that vice. And so I watched that happen in his life. But I never really, until recently, I'm like, maybe it was like unfinished business from my grandfather.
Yeah.
I've come to the conclusion that I just had this innate desire to do this that I couldn't explain, just this engine within me to build at this young age. And I think I was continuing a mission that my grandfather had. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
And so as a young kid, I started out as an entrepreneur. I have a set of Nikes in my office on the wall. And it was the first time my parents were like, we can't afford those shoes. My dad's like, look, I'm a historian. We don't make a lot of money.
Or were they Jordans?
And they were 92 Air Maxes.
Oh.
And I wanted them so bad. And my dad's like, it's off the table. We can't afford them. And my mom looked at me and she said, you know what? If you can earn $50, I'll do the other half. Because they were $100 shoes. And so I started just knocking on doors, and sweet old ladies took full advantage of my labor. There was places where I made $2 for 5 hours of weeding. And,
you literally just said, what jobs do you have?
Yeah. I just went to the door and said, what can I do? Can I weed? You give me a job, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I did it for an entire summer. It took me 4 months. And I got the $50 and I went to the mall and I got those shoes. And it was the first time that I was like, how sweet is the reward of hard work and creating something from nothing.
Yeah.
And that's when I think I got the bug of what? People can tell me no. And as an 11-year-old, I can get a fresh new pair of Nikes.
That's literally the mental state of like a successful person is when they look at an end goal, they look at the reward or the end outcome rather than the path to get there. Like they say that a lot of more, glass half empty type people are looking at, oh man, I'm going to have to weed the yard or mow the grass or do that just to get the shoes versus, oh, I don't care. I'm going to do all that. And I get shoes at the end of the day. Like that's a different mental attitude towards, right? And so it's just interesting that you say, oh, I saw the reward and I tasted success. And that's the truth. That's how successful people look at hard work is like, I'll do it. If I get it at the end of the day, right?
So how old were you when you got those shoes?
11.
That was that year 11.
That was that year 11.
So how did you do in junior high and high school? Were you entrepreneurial then too?
Yeah, I just kept going with it and building all kinds of things through in my early 20s when you knew me at Workfront, I had a vending business on the side. And
like
my wife
machines?
Vending machines. And
so
I
like
was
in
just
apartment buildings and different things?
Yeah. And I was getting used to QuickBooks and a profit and loss statement and reading it and working on it. And my wife and I managed it. And I had this moment where I was at this business filling vending machines during my lunch hour. At the same time, I'm an executive at AdTask leading the sales organization. And I remember hearing a guy from high school whispering, look where Westwood ended up.
Yeah.
And I kind of like just logged that inside and I'm like, okay, there's a rogue psychology, I think, inside of entrepreneurs of like, that stuff's fuel for us.
Yeah.
It's almost like a gift when somebody is saying they can't do it. Why
kind of
are
like
they
Marty McFly?
They're down and out.
Like
what's
Marty McFly? Yeah, well, he
from
what is it now? I'm thinking
Back to the Future.
He can't do something. So, and he goes, oh yeah, don't dare
tell
you
me.
or whatever. Yeah,
yes, I am definitely in that court where that stuff it adds up for me.
Yeah.
And so that was
so before that Workfront year that you mentioned or whatever, you were at Workfront for a while, which is was called AtTask in those days.
Yep.
You were 5 years at DirectPoint. When did you join there? Right out of college?
Right away.
And that seems like it was a pivotal time in your life for learning about business. Is that true?
It was very pivotal. I'm grateful that Mike Proper gave me that opportunity and created that business because what I did is I started out as a sales associate at the very kind of entry level role. And I did every job in the organization until I led the sales and marketing effort. And because of that, I had a lot of respect from the team because they knew I did every single person's job and had figured it out and successfully created value in every role. And then I got the job. But there were 7 people put in the role before I was given the opportunity because everybody looked at me and said, he's 24 years old.
Yeah.
There's no way we're going to give him the reins. And the revenue was around 15 million. And they were thinking someone's got to be 20 years older than this young guy.
Yeah.
And so it one after another passed me up until finally they gave me the opportunity and we just had some blowout quarters. We were having great success.
And you were over all sales and marketing.
That's right.
Of a $15 million revenue line.
And I was probably 24 years old.
Wow.
Yep.
You know Michael Proper, you met him.
Yeah, I've met Michael.
And so one thing I'm noticing here, just again for the viewers and listeners, it's kind of funny. Most of the entrepreneurs I know, whether they start off on the tech side of the business, whatever side, most of the ones that kind of really rise to the cream, they kind of go over to the sales side a little bit more and they learn the sales side. And that's your forte is revenue generation. Is that true?
Absolutely. I had during that time, I had a weird proclivity for the product side too. I realized I was a little bit different than all of our sales team when I was at 7:00 trying to work in Sugar CRM and customize and do other things. So I do have a
free open source CRM.
Yes,
that's cool.
And so I do have a proclivity for the product side, but I am a revenue first.
See, this is interesting for me. I started in the tech side and I loved it. I was in the era of the PC revolution, putting in computers, figuring out tech, using graphics computers instead of the old way of making ads in a Yellow Pages book. I started off on the tech side and I all of a sudden saw this sales side. I said, I got to be more on the sales side. That's where the action is. And that's so important. And I moved my whole thing to focus on sales because other people do tech, but not everybody can do sales. Yeah. It's just interesting that you brought that up. And I'm seeing that where your success is because you've just been so good at revenue generation.
So, so you're at that company and you're quarter after quarter killing it and you're 24 years old.
Yeah.
Like, what did you learn? Because I don't feel like that's common for an entrepreneur or even just a hired, W-2 worker to be put at 24 years old over that important of a revenue, business. Like, what did you learn? How did you get to that spot?
Well, the question would be, why did Michael Proper hire you and appoint you to that position?
Yeah.
Michael Proper he's a visionary and an inspired guy. And he just believed in putting the person that could perform the best in the role.
Meritocracy?
He had a meritocracy that worked.
Well, I guess my question is, let me rephrase it, is what did you do and what attributes did you show? And like, what was your leadership style? Like, were you just a hard worker or like what, because that's not common. That's what I'm saying. A 24-year-old doing that's not common.
I think I would love to ask Mike Proper that question.
I know I'm asking you to self-analyze here.
Yeah, I think the advantage that I had over the 7 people before me is I did every job.
Yeah.
And so I knew the business pat. I knew how to prospect. I knew my outbound pitch. It was logged in my head and I could just give it to you at any moment. I knew how to close. I knew how to farm. I did the existing farm team. I set it up and built it out. I knew everything about the sales team and the value prop and what we were doing in such excruciating detail that by the time I was in the role, I could just do more. I knew more. I helped build the CRM. I knew how everybody did their jobs. So it just positioned me in a way that I could get into the details and do things that the other leaders couldn't.
And did that attention to detail and building out those systems and getting into the trenches on that revenue line fuel the rest of your career where you were like, oh, I did this with Michael and his company over here. I'm just doing this over here. Like, was that really the launch pad to a lot of the success in revenue generation in your career?
Oh man, I'm so fortunate that I got into tech via Mike and DirectPoint.
Yeah, what was the product in DirectPoint?
He managed services, and he was one of the first managed service companies on the planet. And the company was on a tear. It was a lot of fun to work there. Scott Johnson recognized the success we'd been having over a few quarters. And I got a call from Austin Miller, their head of talent at the time. And he was very, very persuasive.
And we've had Scott Johnson, great episode with Scott Johnson.
But when did you two meet then in your timeline? When did you guys?
I think it was about the time I was at Workfront.
Yeah, was it about that time, and as you were maybe at the PC. Yeah, so because the DirectPoint gave you a skill set to launch your own company after you worked. But did you go to AdTask?
Yeah, I was. So I told my wife. My wife's like, all you talk about is entrepreneurship, but she's like, you've got to have a runway here.
You were always such high energy, and you still are.
Yes. And so because of that, my wife's like, you've been talking about this at just nauseum. So when is this actually going to happen?
Oh, you mean leaving that
when
sales
I was at
role.
Workfront? Yeah.
Okay, but DirectPoint, what did make you going from DirectPoint to? Did Scott come and recruit you, or?
Yeah, recruited me, and we doubled the revenue of Workfront in 1 year.
In 1 year that you were there,
it was amazing.
Okay. Yeah. And then your wife's telling you, when are you going to be your own boss?
That's what she was saying. She's like, you know you're going to do it, so just do it.
Yeah.
Well, the rule was that if we saved $100,000, so we shared a car till we were 30. I did not purchase a car till I was 30 years old.
Wow.
My wife, the car we got when we were married when I was 22, I kept.
Wow.
And we lived in a small home. I remember we had a little notebook with our expenses, our total expenses for the month. This is wild. Mortgage, car insurance, everything, $1,450.
Wow. What year was that?
This was 2005.
Yeah.
But boy, does that personal financial strength and habits lead to good things.
Yeah.
And it was a discipline that we then later brought to the business, and a rigor,
Right.
and a discipline of sacrifice so we could live in a much better way later in life. Mm-hmm. But we made some big sacrifices.
One of my mentors in life has this slogan: live a few years like nobody else will, live the rest of your life like nobody else can. Meaning, entrepreneurship's not about sacrificing and working till you die and not having any fun. It's saying, hey, for a few years, there's going to be sacrifice, and then you'll get the rewards.
Yeah.
And I can say I've lived that, and that is true.
Yeah, it's true.
And that
You can live off of interest and live phenomenal life and not worry.
I spent a lot of my career encouraging entrepreneurs, but I try to tell them it's not to turn you into a workaholic. You're not to be a workaholic that just works for 30 years and dies. That's not what it's about. It's about, well, for 4 years, will you work your tail off in an abnormally,
That's right.
all in way. And then afterwards, you have freedom for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So your wife is like pushing you to do this.
Yeah.
So you leave at task.
Yeah, we saved $100,000. This is in 2009. And when we'd saved up the $100,000, she was like, go after it.
Yeah.
So
First of all, let's pause on that. What a lot of spouses aren't along for the ride.
Yeah.
Not taking man or woman, but spouse of an entrepreneur, they're not always that encouraging, and they're scared.
yeah, some reason she believed in me.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It wasn't logical, but I appreciate that she believed in me. And once I had the 100,000, we went after it, and we needed every bit of it. I barely survived. I got paid just in time before it ran out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
So a work front, you left after a year, you doubled their sales. And what's the company you started? Tell us about that.
Called PCS, and it was SMB managed services. And I went back to my roots of what I learned at DirectPoint.
you were just like, what I did at DirectPoint, I feel like I can just do that.
Yeah, I learned all the roles. Let's build something. And we built it. We bootstrapped. We built it profitably. And my first ever investor invested $40,000 with no signed docs. He sent me a check, a FedEx check. Travis Johnson of Idaho Falls. And he believed in me, and I'll always be grateful to him for that. He's my first angel investor. And in Simplus, we gave him a big allocation, and we made him a lot of money.
Yeah.
And in Fullcast, we gave him a big allocation, and we're going to make him a lot of money.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I appreciate it. He bet on me before anyone with $40,000 that was instrumental in the success. But that was the only investment we had in PCS.
You cash flowed it the rest of the way on your own.
We cash flowed it, and
How
it was
many
$1.5
years did you
million
do that?
of EBITDA when we ended.
Wow.
When we sold it.
And that's fantastic. And how long did you run that for?
4.5 years.
Okay. And then when you sold that, where'd you go then?
We created Simplus.
Yes.
And
I definitely, you and I were meeting a lot then because you were telling me what you're doing. And I remember going to Marley's. I can't remember where we went.
oh yeah, probably. Yeah.
And just talk about when you were getting Simplus off the ground.
Yeah, we had, you have phenomenal memory, but they had the sliders at Marley.
I don't even know when we first met. So I think it was during the Dev Mountain Simplus days, but I don't know why
that
or how.
sounds right.
I don't know why or how like he. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So you're going, how did the Simplus idea come about? Because you're in these managed services IT area. How do you get into the
Tell
Simplus
us the business
Salesforce
model of
side?
Simplus and what you thought.
Yeah. So we were processing credit cards in Salesforce.
Yeah.
And we had the realization that nobody really knew how to do it. And there was no CPQ solutions. There's nothing that's configure, price, and quote. And there was nothing there for it. And so it was a big problem we had at PCS that I was like, if we have this problem and Salesforce hasn't figured it out, there's got to be other businesses that have the same problem.
So you were using Salesforce at PCS.
Yes.
You said, holy crap, we can't actually process or do any kind of credit card processing within Salesforce. There's got to be a solution out there. And there wasn't. That's
Yes.
how you fell into the Simplus.
That's right. And,
Wow.
and we started seeing that the margins of that business were better, and I got very interested in it. And one thing I've tried to do is, from what I've learned, get into incrementally better and better companies.
Yeah.
And the gross margins were a lot better than the managed service.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, what's an attribute of a better company? If I'm in a company
Yeah.
and I find a better company, what does that mean?
I love recurring revenue.
Yeah.
I love high gross margins.
Yeah, bigger margins.
Sounds like my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love to have a business that has a defensible kind of position.
Buried entry?
Buried entry that's difficult.
You're going literally down my checklist that I teach in the boot camp. Yeah.
Well, I hope they listen to you because I had to do a few before it that were really hard.
Yeah, everybody does,
life-shortening businesses. And so now I only want to do those businesses.
Yeah. So you go into Simplus, you just kind of have this aha moment. Oh my, this is a great market, great industry, great idea. Let's go.
Yeah, and we tested it, and it was taking off faster than our
Did you build that product then within Salesforce? That's what the original.
Yes, and it was a combination of helping product-wise and services.
Is it a
It's tech-enabled.
Salesforce app?
Yes, and it tech-enabled services. We were as more services than product. What we figured out is that if we could customize Salesforce, and we realized how much revenue was in customizing Salesforce.
Yeah.
It's a high margin business, at least it was at the time, and businesses spend tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to figure out that core process in their businesses.
Yeah.
And we realized that that was a humongous opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you basically became like a Salesforce dev shop for people, customizing Salesforce instances.
Specific to CPQ. So the thing that we did different is the prior businesses just tried to be all things to everyone. And what we did is we pinned down one business process, and everybody told us
that pain point you
And one
discovered.
pain point.
yeah,
Yep.
and we stayed in the pain point, and we did not divert. And I had so many people, our sales team, our marketing,
Trying to get you
for
to do other
years-
things?
Yeah, everybody wanted me to do something else, and I
Take the eye
stopped-
off the ball.
Yes,
Why did you stay? Why?
it was
'cause-
our bread and butter. It was highly differentiated. And I kept feeling like and this is the thing, is if you keep doing it long enough, you build enough brand. It's a hack to build a bigger brand fast and build a reputation to where you get big deals. And here's what happened that was we had a couple things that were great luck. There were two businesses that were building CPQ because Salesforce's was so bad. There was one company called Steelbrick and one called Aptus. And one of them was this great entrepreneur called Godard Abel. And Godard built a company called Big Machines and sold it to Oracle, which was CPQ, the first CPQ software. And there was this company called Aptus, and everybody bet on Aptus. So all Deloitte and Accenture and all the big boys, they bet all the money on Aptus. And I sat down with the teams of both companies, and Aptus was actually implemented at Salesforce. So everybody was like, oh, it's a foregone conclusion. They're going to buy Aptus.
Yeah.
But when I met Godard, I'm like, this guy just spent 13 years building a team and just sold for almost $500 million the same product to Oracle. Why isn't anyone paying attention to this guy? Mm-hmm. And I could just see a fire in his eyes. And I'm like, that's an entrepreneur that is going to win. But everyone is all in on this other guy. And so we bet the house on him. We stopped doing everything else. We only implemented Steelbrick. We went all in. He invested in Simplus. We went arm in arm together, and we went on a run that was epic together. And Salesforce acquired him. The day after I flew into San Francisco, Salesforce Ventures invested, and we went on a roll-up spree, and we acquired our 7 biggest competitors, and we directed every press release at intimidating our competitors. None of them were about us. It was all, how do we angle to make them feel like the earth is just shaking beneath their feet, and we're gonna take over.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So did you say Salesforce Ventures invested in Simplus?
Yeah, because the one he partnered with, they acquired the one he was partnering with.
Yeah.
Which gave him an inside track to the ventures arm.
That's right. So the day after the acquisition, I flew in and said, hey, you bought this great company, you spent all this money, no one else knows how to implement it but us. So how are you gonna deliver? Now you have 5,000 salespeople selling it. Who's gonna deliver on it? And they were like, great point. And they immediately put capital in, and we ended up all in all raising about $40 million.
And you use that to buy up and roll up.
And we used a combination of Silicon Valley's banks, venture debt, equity, and cash. And what I realized in a meeting with a banker. I actually think it's interesting to talk to bankers early on. A lot of entrepreneurs avoid them. But I asked them about some other companies in the ecosystem that had had success. And they told me that they showed me their decks, and I saw one anomaly. The companies under 10 million were valued at 1 times revenue. Companies over 10 were valued at about 2, and over 20 were valued at about 3. I'm like, well, this is really easy math. If I buy companies at 8 or 9 million for 1 times revenue, they're worth 3 the second we close.
Yeah.
And so we just...
That's called arbitrage.
It was a beautiful arbitrage model. And we went on to roll up everyone. Yeah. And that, between that and organic growth, we just...
Well, what was that roll-up process like? Was that pretty hard to grab other third-party companies, bring them in under one umbrella, maybe even, fire some of the people that are doing similar jobs within all the different, just rolling up and consolidating? Was that a difficult thing?
It's very hard.
I was going to say the cohesiveness, the company cultures, like the respect and everything that you build with your own team, then on a whim, just bringing in a full force of people. Oh man.
I have a couple tips that have saved me some pain
because it's a great model. Mistakes. The roll up and consolidation. Like what you just said. Oh, it's worth 1x the second I buy it. It's worth 3x. The revenue impact is amazing. Well, but
also the expense side. When you consolidate companies like that, the G&A expenses go away about 80% on the one you acquire. So that also flows to the bottom line.
Yeah. You take legal, finance, and HR right out, and bang, bottom line.
How many companies did you acquire, and how short period of time?
We acquired 7 in 3 years.
Yeah.
And during those acquisitions, there's a couple things I learned. One, be clear that you are getting rid of their brand day one. If that's going to happen. If not, that's okay. But the middle ground, and it takes really strong leadership. Mm-hmm. Tell them after the LOI and before the close, if you need to reduce staff, get it done then.
Yeah. Yep.
And then a major thing is just making sure if you're going to integrate or how and where the people go, you decide that right away.
Yeah.
If not, if you're unclear about anything, in that case, if you're not decisive and clear, there's going to be all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
And the other thing is a lot of CEOs will acquire for revenue. That is a mistake. Acquire with a very focused strategy. That's where M&A gets a bad name.
Yeah.
When the CEO of a services business suddenly acquires a software company.
Yeah.
And the two employee bases are like, PTO doesn't work. The margins are different. I feel weird. That's when you hear horror stories. But if you're focused in a spot where you're really, really good and you're definitive in your leadership, I think it's one of the greatest strategies to deploy for entrepreneurship. That's the most underutilized strategy to scale.
Yeah. But it's just interesting. We're at that stage in private equity right now. Everything's cyclical. But right now, private equity is having a hard time because private equity that just buys without the strategy, just for the revenue, they have to find the next buyer. And then the next buyer and the next buyer. And right now, there's a lot of articles being written about it, is current private equity companies that have done those kind of purchases are not finding the next buyer. It's like musical chairs.
Yeah.
They're running out of the chair and they're being left out because they can't find a buyer. So if they overpaid, they're in trouble.
And I noticed in Financial Times, there's funds now that are even using their own next fund to buy the business because they can't find a buyer. Did you see that?
Yes.
Wow.
Even Vista and others, that's got to be,
and the investor,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, and just think of those investors.
So like a transaction between their own two entities?
Yeah, and then imagine the problem because either one or the other side's going to lose.
Yeah.
Whoever's in one of the other funds is going to say you paid too much, you paid too little.
Your
right?
allegiance to the LP.
Yeah.
Hopefully another buyer comes down the road for that fund too.
I was going to say you got to have that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's an interesting time right now in that space because for about 10 years it was a no-lose game to buy like that, and then you get caught holding the bag.
So is that strategy ultimately that got you to a point of acquisition within Simplus? Because again, I mentioned it in your bio in the beginning of this episode, Simplus sold for $250 million. Was that a big reason why? Was that roll up and that experience that you did, and just building and piling on the revenue.
Well, after you
Was
start
the market that big? Like you didn't have like competing companies with the same similar customers or different customers? Like, I don't know. It's just
Well, what we did is we tried to buy them and take them out as they came. Yeah. But there were a few that popped back up towards the end of the journey because they saw our success and they tried to emulate it.
Yeah, right. The kind of interesting thing, Tyler, is that, he just mentioned $8 or $9 million. It was way easier once he has the motor running to buy that $8 or $9 million company than to take the time to go grow by $8 or $9 million.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And I think sometimes if you sit down and you look at the CAC for organic versus inorganic, in some markets, like right now, I believe the CAC can be lower for inorganic.
Yeah.
And you've got to weigh out the two at all times.
You still have to be strategic and you have to buy at a good price.
You basically mean organic, meaning like in-house versus inorganic is like those acquiring the customer. Okay.
Very smart.
Yeah, that's a great model.
Viewers and listeners, you got to be on top of it like Ryan is.
It's just capital intensive, right? Which is why you raised $40 million from Salesforce Ventures or whatever the number was.
You sound like you got debt. You got venture debt from Silicon Valley type banks, and then you had your cash, but you also did you buy some of the companies with equity?
We did.
You had to be careful there because it's kind of interesting. If I sell a company to you, and then I get equity for that, and you make the value go up to 3x from 1x, I'm also a winner being the seller.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we did do that for many of them.
Yeah.
Because every deal had a combination and not all were the same, but we used all three vehicles.
You were careful with your currency of your equity because you don't want to overspend that either. Yeah.
That's right. And so we used both assets, the debt, the cash, and the equity, depending on the situation. And it fluctuated based on how long I wanted that CEO to stay to.
Right.
And so there's a lot of strategy between how you architect the deal and how it goes afterwards.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Just as a footnote here, right after we went public with Infospace in 1998, in the first year we bought 25 companies all with our stock. Didn't spend any cash on it because it was la land on valuations, public company, and you can buy companies with the currency of your stock. And if it's a hot stock going up, the sellers will sell to you because they think they're going to make money afterwards. And so 25 companies in 1 year.
Then the crash.
What a run.
Yeah. And actually, I remember you talking about that. And I remember in our acquisition, because I was acquired by a public company too, I remember negotiating for an all cash deal saying like, I don't want to touch stock. I don't want any stock.
But in your case, you should have taken some stock.
I know. And then looking back at it, it was when we sold our company and added value to that publicly traded company, their stock tripled in like a year and a half after our deal. My deal would have ballooned by 3x if I just would have taken stock.
It's always a risk.
I was going to say,
we were happy with the cash, but I'm just saying to the entrepreneurs out there, like, there's a trade-off for both sides.
One of the things I think all three of us can say though, and we've been on the seller side, and this is for viewers and listeners just to know, when you do sell your company, a lot of times they have a concept called earnout where you get like 80 or 90% of your cash and 10 or 20 are held back. And you've had this experience too. It's actually more often than not, you don't get any of that earnout money.
Yeah,
because of lots of different circumstances. I've had my own cases. That one time I even had to file a lawsuit on the buyer because we qualified and earned our earnout, and they didn't want to pay it.
Wow.
That's tough, right?
Yeah, it is.
So Simplus ends in an acquisition. Obviously, there was a huge path there, a lot of work, a lot of roll up, a lot of, company culture things, a lot of revenue building. But take me to the acquisition part. Like, when did you know Simplus was like it? You're like, oh man, this is going to be an amazing exit for everybody involved. Like, at what point was that?
I think there's a healthy paranoia that comes with being an operator. There was never a moment
you
that
never
I was
were
like, this is for sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to keep one eye open while I sleep.
Yeah.
That's the mentality.
Until the cash is in the bank, it's always,
Even to the last moment, I remember.
Even the morning of.
Yes. and mine was particularly intense because it was the day that Trump announced the pandemic we funded. So I remember being at the Jazz game, and I remember I was sitting with Clint, and I'm like, Clint, I haven't heard a word you said this whole game because I was so stressed because I knew it was going to fund.
Close.
In just a couple days, it was going to fund, and there was all this talk of a pandemic and the world shutting down.
Yeah.
We had signed on February 15th. March 15th, we were going to fund. And it was only a few days left. And
it was March of 2020 with the pandemic,
That's right.
Yeah.
And we were going to fund. I knew it. And I was just anxious every minute until that closed.
Let me ask you this question. You know what the waterfall document is in at the last things where the attorneys say, here's how the money's going to be distributed.
Yes.
And fall down. It's called the waterfall document. And it's the strangest thing. You don't get that till like the day before or the morning of when the money's supposed to be wired, right? And then it's you're always worried. At that point, you're still worried if it's going to close. Are they going to make the wire at 2 p.m.?
We were always in the back office doing our own calculations on our own spreadsheets saying, ooh, this is how much money in my piece of the company's going to make.
And it's just a crazy process. It really is. Also, by the way, going public, it's just fun to tell these stories because they're so similar. But like, it was the morning of going public, and I'm in Seattle. The market opens at 6:30 a.m. And so we're up at like 6 a.m. at the office, and we had bought a really expensive plasma TV to watch it in the conference room. The tickers start going by, and like a half hour before opening, I'm going, I hope they don't cancel the IPO. I hope they don't cancel the IPO because anything can happen.
Yeah.
You feel that paranoia every minute.
And I don't think you're a healthy entrepreneur if you don't sleep with one eye open all the time.
Yeah. So maybe my question was bad. My question was bad. Of course, you don't know for sure until it's for sure. But I mean, you had to have felt along the way like, wow, I'm building really good business. I'm piling on really great partners. I'm doing really great product. I have really good revenues. Like, right? Like you felt that.
Yeah. When we did our Series C, I was like, we're in a zone.
Yeah.
And you kind of get this feeling like, it's only ours to lose.
Yeah.
If this team doesn't execute on it, it was our mistake. But we should win this market. And that's how it started to feel. And the winning was fun.
Yeah.
And we just were on a tear. And then they came to us, Infosys. And I had a conversation where I'm like, look, you can't afford us. It's not worth having this conversation.
Oh, you're being hard to get.
And it was a hard to get, but it was with reason. I'll tell you why.
You can't afford us.
Our Series C investors had a 2.5x blocker, and they'd only invested 9 months before. So I said, this price is not going to make sense for you guys.
Yeah.
And if it is, let's talk. Otherwise, don't worry about it. And they're like, hey, come to New York City and let's talk.
To explain that to our viewers and listeners, I'm just going to explain the blocker is saying that if your Series C investor doesn't make 2.5 times their money, there's no sale possible.
Yeah.
And you would have to say no to Infosys no matter what if they didn't achieve a 2.5x return to that recent investor.
Which I actually kind of love that provision.
That gave you a strong...
Because I came with absolute confidence.
Yeah.
And I could
nothing
negotiate.
To lose here.
I had a nothing to lose negotiation because I thought, if you don't hit it, it doesn't matter anyway. I can't sell it.
So you told them that
this is no knock to you, but you can't afford us, like literally.
You told them that they were still interested.
And they were like, we're absolutely interested. We'll get to that number. So I said, put it on paper.
Yeah.
Let's see this on paper.
Yeah.
And that's what kicked it off.
When was that first discussion with Infosys? And
it was in July
of 19.
So and by February we closed.
Yeah.
The decision-making process was unreal.
Yeah.
I met with 20 different executives. There are at the time they were about $100 billion market cap. They're about $76 billion market cap today.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to meet with everyone from the CEO to most of the executives.
Yeah.
And on down, COO, CFO, in-person meetings, New York, Salt Lake, wherever it was. Let's see, it was at least 20 meetings. I had to present to executives.
Yep.
It's a crazy process.
So, but it took a little over half a year or more. It took like 8 months.
Yeah, it's like a second job when you're selling, isn't it?
It was an absolute. And I remember we had a big whiteboard in my office, and I had it turned around, and it was our war room kind of board, and our CFO and I were just crossing off the list. Diligence, and we were in.
Have you met Kaylin Sharp,
ever
his co-founder, Kaylin Sharp?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yes, I know.
But he wrote a great article after selling because it was the first time they'd been through this, and he wrote a great article about the whole process after like signing the LOI to close is literally like a second job, and how long it takes to do the due diligence because they go through everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we timed it to where we were buying a business while
we were getting bought.
So we were buying a company. And we were getting purchased, and I was operating the day-to-day.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very busy
stacked.
time. And and what sold me most on it is then they pitched me with a reverse integration. So they said, Ryan, you'll be the CEO of the Infosys competitive business. And we'll roll all those employees under you in the Simplus brand. And that'll be the beachhead going forward of the brand.
So how long did you stay there doing that?
It was 2.5 years.
Wow, that's rare staying that long because most of the time the CEOs of the selling company don't last that long at the buying company.
I'll tell you the moment I knew it was time to go.
Okay.
I sent an email to the CEO and said, "Okay, year's over. We did the total number for the practice was 650 million, 150 million in EBITDA, and it took 3 weeks to respond. And the response was nice.
Oh my gosh.
$150 million of EBITDA. And the response was nice. I was like, I need to find a new job really bad, like right now. So that's when I was done. And when I resigned, it took months before it was granted. There was this thought that if they ignored it, I would reconsider.
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
It's just an interesting way. Let me ask you this question, going back, because we talked about all the fun at the later stages, Simplus. What's one or two tips, like the first 18 months of Simplus? What are like two pivotal things that you did or that happened that really were critical? And because all this fun stuff after Series C and all that and selling, but what in the first 18 months? Because that's always a grind, right? So,
oh yeah, those are your life shortening years.
What's kind of the pivotal couple things or tips that you would offer from that?
I think one was we drafted off the brand to Salesforce. There's a lot of advantages to finding one great partnership that's reciprocal and building off of that brand. That gave us a lot of opportunity in companies and logos we would have never had access to.
Brand association.
So
basically.
brand association, I would say, is one.
Okay.
The second was discipline around differentiation, making sure that we had a differentiated value and we did not waver from that.
You weren't just a Me
differentiation.
Too product.
Yes. And I think it takes a ton of discipline because as an entrepreneur, you just see revenue and you think I'll be all things to all people. And it's not a winning strategy. Mm-hmm. What I learned from it is our brand became much bigger, much faster. People recognized us all over the ecosystem because we didn't do everything and we had high customer satisfaction.
You were the best at one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody, and our homepage was the leader in quote to cash. And we had it there for 5 years. We just didn't change the homepage. We didn't try to do anything fancy. We were like, we're going to beat the drum on this one thing until everybody knows us for it. So that was the other thing, is just differentiation, how that impacted the brand. I would say brand awareness with the partnerships.
That's what I was going to say is like, I know you're getting partnerships, you're getting brand association, you're getting a good product, but like how are you actually getting access and getting into these deals and building revenue and getting your own brand out there and getting your own name for yourself, even though you're building a brand partnership over here with Salesforce and you're associated with them and you have a good product and you're staying to your true North Star over there within your own realm and market. But it's like, you're a sales guy. I feel like you're a revenue builder. Like what is the actual strategy or the tips you would give to people who are maybe going from like that $0 to $1 million or that even that $500,000 to $3 million? Like, how do you pile on serious revenues that way? Because I feel like you've done it like 3 or 4 times in your career.
I think that this answer, most people won't love to hear it.
Why? Because it's so general?
No, it's because it's hard and it takes a long time.
I like it.
I would say that, Gary Vee used to say, jab, jab, right hook. Give, then ask.
Yeah.
Having the discipline in a new relationship, don't ask for a thing for 2 years. You meet someone, don't ask for anything for 2 years. Just give. And it's incredible what will be unlocked from it.
Yeah.
So when I think about those early stages, I've been given capital by angel investors, and it wasn't because it was when we started the business. It wasn't because of the business. It was because of something that happened 10 years before, 15 years before, 5 years before, and all of it added up. It was all the jabs that added up and mounted up into momentum.
Can that be summarized into like relationship building? Like
absolutely. And with customers and with investors
how do you do that?
Partners.
How do you do that with customers though? Like if I'm a business and I have a product and I'm trying to reach this big brand or this big person, this big kahuna in my industry, I want to sell them. How do you do that on a B2B way?
If I've been sending jabs over to a CIO for 5 years, no matter what the product is, out of sheer guilt, they're going to try it.
Oh, you just mean like being a good person, being curious and building a relationship.
If you want those first 10 customers, if you have been giving to people for the last 10 years, you will get them no matter what.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, oh, this guy keeps helping me. I got to do something. That's the way you're living, I think, is a great way to ignite a startup.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, he is living this. He's noticed that I drink Coke Zero on every
gotta
episode.
show the viewers.
And then he walks in today and says,
Well, you
I
just
watched your episodes. Here's some Coke Zero.
Yeah, here's your Coke Zero. So Ryan's just that guy. So I love that.
And I won't forget that.
You know, someone else
Thank
who's
you,
a
John.
great business builder that was on our podcast said a very similar thing. David Bradford, who's been around the
isn't he
block,
great?
and he's built a lot of awesome companies, has one of the best networks ever. And he literally said the same thing. He's like, truly care and be curious about people. And yeah, just be a good person. And then, yeah, the outcome of that will be at some point they will do something
Look at
genuine
how much
back
he's
for you.
networked with us
Yeah.
since being on the podcast.
Yeah. So it's the great tips from great successful people. Ryan, David, all of these guys are saying
We've only got a
similar
few
things
minutes
we
left,
do.
unfortunately. So I want to make sure we get to the fun years after selling Simplus.
Yeah, that's what I want to go to.
And you kind of could choose what to do in life. Tell us what you did for a few years and then what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I spent some time as a venture capitalist at Epic.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Epic Ventures, one of the great VC funds in Utah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
watching-
love Epic. By the way,
Yeah.
shout out to Epic.
Yeah, watching Nick and Kent.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal investors, great guys. I just, I appreciated them as an investor and their approach and was happy to be a part of the firm. We did a lot of deals together. I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun, but deep down, I'm like,
You're an operator.
I'm an operator.
Yeah.
And inside, I'm like, this is so fun. But then when the deal would close, like, what am I supposed to do right now?
yeah.
And so I think there's a certain amount of adrenaline you get used to that you're hooked to after. If you've done it for more than a decade, it's really hard. It's like an athlete. If that drop off is really hard, I underestimated how hard it would be for me not to be operating in a business. It was really hard to transition
It's
out.
building, growing. Entrepreneurs have this innate drive to build and grow.
Yes.
And we've talked about it so many times on the podcast. Do you agree with this? That the climb up the hill is more fun than reaching the summit.
Absolutely. The journey is the reward.
Yeah.
So I did some venture capital. Then I joined some boards. And one of them was called Lumery, a healthcare SaaS business in Australia, in Adelaide. And another one was a testing automation software company in London. Cities I love to visit.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurs that I love and could support on great businesses that were scaling. And I found that chairing those boards was my favorite thing to do outside of being an entrepreneur. And the reason was during my time off, I wrote a 50-page document about everything I learned about being a CEO.
Yeah.
And I would share it with them and spend time with them and work through things. And it made me feel like I was in it again. And that mentorship of the CEO as the board chair was my favorite role, but I still couldn't totally scratch the itch.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, okay, I got to get back in. I started calling everybody, hey, you want to go do it again? And everyone's like, oh, I'm in.
This is the team that has been with you since your early days at Direct Point.
Yes.
Okay.
And
you've taken them through all these
Wait,
ventures.
you've been
Yeah.
with the same team since your very first startup at Direct Point?
No, that's not his startup. That's where he worked.
No, I'm saying that. Michael's.
Oh, yeah. So my CRO now was selling arm in arm with me at Direct Point.
Wow.
And he worked for Josh at Domo. He went to Adobe. He's worked for all these great companies. And he worked for me at Simplus. And he's back with me at Fullcast. It's 3 times over 20 years.
Wow.
But 6 of our 8 executives have 10 or more years we've worked together.
So you were
Wow.
calling everybody about Fullcast. Tell us about Fullcast.
Okay, so one thing that I've always really, I talked about Sugar CRM earlier and working on Sugar CRM. I've always loved operations around sales and marketing. The back end, the real meat of how do I carve a territory? How do I make sure that commissions are paid properly?
We just had
How do I
Jaron Paul on
incentivize?
Spiff.
Yes.
Spiff, right?
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to invest in his seed round. And what a
great.
phenomenal guy.
I know.
So that kind of side of the business I always enjoyed. And I knew this is what we all want to do because we're passionate about it. And we've been doing something in around that our whole career, sales and marketing and operations of sales and marketing. And so we looked for a lot of businesses in the space and we found this company in Seattle. And
We're originally from Seattle.
Yeah.
Okay.
well, these guys, one of them was the VP of go-to-market tech at Salesforce. And he lived through the big scale years at Salesforce. And he was the guy building all the stuff behind the scenes to help them scale. And he eventually decided he was going to go build it on his own. And he started building lots of product, but their forte was not sales and marketing. So I get on the phone with these customers and they're like, oh, this is the most important technology in our tech stack. We carve territories and they are organized and accurate. And we were able to do all these things that I've never been able to do. And we love it, but no one's ever heard of these guys. And every reference call, they kind of joked about how it was a teeny company and no one ever heard of them. But the thing I heard throughout all of them is how much they love the product. And I thought, I can solve these other problems.
Yeah.
So me and my co-founders put $9 million up of our own cash. And then we added some other investors and we bought the company. And it was $1.5 million in revenue. It's been 7 quarters and we're north of 15
Wow.
in ARR. So we're doing it again.
That's awesome.
Wait, so you bought the whole company?
We bought
with
100% of the
investors,
business.
and you bought out the original founders.
Yes, except for the CTO. We had him roll his equity, and he is a partner, and he's a phenomenal partner. He's our product leader.
Did he take some cash off the table?
A little
For
bit of
himself?
cash off the table.
Okay.
We were like, take some cash now. Here's what's interesting. In this next round, he's doubling down with some of the cash.
Really?
He wants more in.
You paid pretty good for that company, right? Didn't you?
We did.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they were making $1.5 million, and you paid
Yeah.
9.
We paid more than that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was about 15.
Wow.
It was competitive.
It was 9 within your team. Your
It was
partnership.
competitive, and I think that in the beginning, people thought we were overpaying, and I felt like we were underpaying.
When did you
Wow.
close? What month and year was that?
That was in 22.
Yeah. Well, 22 prices were still
22. It might have closed January 23.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and
a year
prices
later.
were
People
higher.
probably would have thought you overpaid, maybe because
But
it's
in
not worse. than
7
23.
quarters, you like.
Yeah.
But you got in good, and now you've 15, or well, I guess 10x the revenue.
Yeah, 10x the revenue in 7 quarters.
We felt like we had a tiger by the tail, and we were like, sometimes I think that people, when you know you have something great and you feel more than 90% confident, be flexible on the price.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments where I'm like, some people are going to question me, but I think in 12 months and in 24 months will prove that this was right.
Yeah, you
So
were
is
right.
this scratching your itch now?
Our valuation is now 125 million.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's-
wow.
we've compensated.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. So this is scratching your itch, though.
Oh yeah. Now I feel like, but you know what, John? I feel like the first 6 months I wasn't in CEO shape.
Oh.
I wasn't the CEO that I needed to be.
It's like going back to the gym.
Yeah, it's like going back to
shape
gym and
again.
getting in shape again.
Yeah.
Is that why you brought your team back together though?
The team is my team
because you
makes me
could
look
get
so
back
good. They're
together
so
and go
great.
quick. Yeah.
Oh, they just know what they're doing, and we're in an operating. I call it the operating rhythm.
Yeah.
And we have that rhythm of the business, and I have this document. We all just know it. And what's great too is everybody just fills in for me. We have 3 prior CEOs that have sold companies for north of 100 million on our leadership team.
Wow. Yeah.
So these people are
Whip
red
smart.
personalities that are
Yeah.
whip smart. I get out of their way and just say, "What do you need?"
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, should we just go to a concluding question maybe?
Yeah, well, I do want to say one more thing.
This has been awesome.
Because I know that you've done a lot of philanthropy, and I know you've done a lot of giving back. I know you're involved on your personal website that I checked out before the podcast. You list a couple of charities and things you're affiliated with. Like, what are you doing there? Because I know that's really important to you.
Yeah, share some of that.
Yeah.
Just thank you for that. One tip that has been life-changing. Our girls, every year, every member of our family, so my wife and my 2 girls and I, we all pick a charity to donate to.
Oh, cool.
And we would have our girls just cut a check every year. And they would pick a charity. And it wasn't
Meaningful enough?
It wasn't meaningful enough because it was mom and dad's money.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of like, whatever, we contributed.
Yeah.
And they'd forget in a minute.
Yeah.
So we started to require 8 weeks of service at the charity they picked once a week.
Wait,
So
what
we
do you
said-
mean?
So we said, whatever charity you pick, and my youngest daughter, we started this when she was 4. She loves animals. And so she picked Best Friends. And the only job they'd let her do was read to cats. So she sat on a little box and just read for an hour to cats. I swear to you, she learned how to read, reading to cats. And I would listen around the corner, and she knew she was contributing and she was a part of it.
Yeah.
And what it's done for the culture of our family is now all year long, we'll be sitting at dinner and my daughter's like, I think I'm going to do this charity. I've been researching this. And I've been thinking, I'm like, what? they now are so invested because it's their time.
Yeah.
They really, really care.
And they care about it.
Because they know they're going to get dropped off once a week for 8 weeks at that location. And they're like, I better pick the right charity.
Yeah. So you're literally doing like a local charity where they're spending time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
and they're
awesome.
really contributing. So if it's that it's a food bank, they're going and they're filling boxes. My girls are going Saturday mornings and filling boxes. So
you're still giving a check, but you're also making them give time.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they give them a check and then they say, what can I do? And I'm going to be here for the next 8 weeks.
How many kids do you have?
2.
Oh, nice.
And they're 9 and 12. And so that has been kind of a major cultural shift that I would just say, when you have the opportunity to give back with your family, if you want it to be a part of the culture of your family, that's worked really well.
And not just a tax write-off and just like saving this or whatever charity giving. It's like, hey, actually make it mean something.
I actually feel like it's having a generational impact and more of a legacy move than just a tax write-off.
That's awesome.
It's become a part of our family culture.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really good.
Last question that I have for you before we wrap up this episode, because we've actually already been talking for an hour, which is
if there's
crazy.
anything else you'd like to cover about that,
that's what I want to say. Is I say the last parting thing I want to leave with you, Ryan, is like, not if you were starting over and like what you would say to your 21-year-old self or whatever, but like now knowing what you know today, who Ryan is today, like what is the advice that you're giving to these entrepreneurs? Like anybody within the reach of your voice right now that's listening to this podcast, like what are you telling them? What's a broad piece of advice that's like, this is something that I feel like every entrepreneur could use?
People would have laughed if they would, in my 20s, heard me say this, but slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
I've been going so fast and had a certain level of intensity that I've realized my direction is far more important than my speed. And taking the time to live deliberately and think what I want to create instead of react to in the world has changed everything for me. Everything's slowed down and I've been more thoughtful. My time is allocated only to the most significant things that are a part of creating the things I really want to create.
You mentioned meditation before we started the podcast. Comment on that a little.
Life-changing. The first 2 years, I was the worst meditator on earth. I just didn't give up. I couldn't even lay down for 15 minutes without getting up.
That's me.
I couldn't, and I would grab my phone and I would have 10 ideas on my phone. And then eventually what I did is I left my phone in another room, sat a notebook by myself. And every time I'd get the impulse to get up, I'd write it down and then sit back down. And eventually I didn't need the notebook. And eventually I could sit quiet. And then eventually I learned a breathing rhythm that totally relaxed me. And I became a third party to myself and started to actually be deliberate in my life. And it's changed my whole life, having that silence. Now, if I can get an hour on the weekend, 2 hours on a Sunday to meditate, it's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah. See, Tim, I am you before that whole process, because that 2 hours on a Sunday sitting down meditating, that sounds like my actual living hell. I need to change that. I need to change that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think I was you. So now you're making me reflect on myself and what I need to do for my meditation and my slowing down. Stop speeding up, just slow down. And direction is more important than speed.
This has been great.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Okay. We're going to
spend hours.
Yeah, we're going to sign off though. But honestly, we can learn so much from Ryan. So thank you for coming on. This is a journey of relationships, sales and revenue building, and just doing it over and over, keeping those who you care about close, including team, family, meditation, philanthropy, everything. It's so great.
And packaging his thoughts and principles. He shared principles today that are very valuable.
Yeah. So like, subscribe, share, reach out to Ryan. He's a nice dude too. I don't want to flood you with too much here, but Ryan is an amazing, smart mentor, advisor. look at this. He told us before this podcast filming that he's had to turn board seats down because people want him on his board. He's like, I have too much on my plate. He's just a guy that everybody wants to be around. So thank you for coming on, Ryan. We're going to sign off. That is our full episode today on the Startup Ignition podcast. Tune in next time, and thank you. We are out.